Have you ever felt like you were doing everything right in a relationship, and yet it still fell apart? You respected her space. You stayed kind. You stayed true to yourself. But somehow, all you got in return was confusion, frustration, or even heartbreak. What if I told you that the rules you've been taught, those polite, respectful dating guidelines, might be the very reason things haven't worked out? Today, I'm pulling back the curtain. We're diving into a truth few people talk about, the hidden emotional triggers every woman has. These are not the things women post about or openly admit to, but they matter, and every man needs to understand them. So stay with me, because what you're about to hear could flip your entire perspective on dating upside down. If you're ready to finally understand what really drives attraction, drop a comment below saying, "I am ready." And trust me, you'll want to watch this all the way through. Miss even a few seconds, and you might miss the key that unlocks everything. Let's face it, the modern dating game is rigged, and not in your favor. Have you ever noticed how the men who succeed with women rarely follow the rules? They break the mold. And it's not because they're lucky. It's because they know something you don't. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Women aren't the logical, predictable creatures you've been led to believe. Their attraction is rooted in emotion, not reason. In fact, most women aren't even fully aware of why they're drawn to certain types of men. That's where I come in. I'm going to walk you through the 10 biggest emotional vulnerabilities women have, not to manipulate or deceive, but to help you understand the real psychology behind connection and chemistry. So you can build something stronger, deeper, and actually real. We're not sugarcoating anything here. This isn't outdated advice from decades ago. This is raw, honest, and powerful. So get ready, seriously. Hit the like button if this is already opening your eyes. Subscribe if you want more insights that cut through the nonsense and actually help you level up in today's dating world. And if you believe in this message, consider supporting the channel through memberships. It helps keep this content real and accessible for men everywhere. Now, let's get into the first weakness. Number 1, the steadfast man. Let's get something straight. Modern women are surrounded by options. Their DMs are flooded, they're getting compliments from strangers, and dating apps hand them endless matches like a never-ending buffet. So why do most men still struggle? Because they're inconsistent. They say one thing and do another. They cancel plans. They ghost. They lose interest the moment things get real. And women? They've seen it all before. That's why they don't trust easily. They're used to men flaking, disappearing, or giving up at the first challenge, whether that's after a few dates or a few months. That's exactly why the man who remains firm, who shows up, follows through, and stays true to his word, stands out like a lighthouse in a storm. Steadfastness isn't just about showing up. It's about being rooted in who you are, no matter the circumstances. And in today's world, that's incredibly rare and incredibly attractive. Last time, we talked about how being a steadfast man, someone who shows up, follows through, and stays true to his word, can instantly set you apart in a dating world full of flakes. But that's just the beginning. Let's keep going. To truly stand out, you need to embody stability in every corner of your life. It's not just about saying the right things, It's about doing them, without second guessing, without excuses. In a dating culture overwhelmed by indecisiveness, being the man who follows through becomes a rare beacon, like a lighthouse in a foggy sea. And the foundation of that? It's in the little things. If you say you'll text her later, do it. If you promise to call at a specific time, be there, on the dot. Being steadfast doesn't mean you're stiff or inflexible. It means you're reliable, someone she can count on. In a fast-paced, swipe-left world where authenticity is hard to find, reliability is one of the sexiest traits a man can have. Now let's talk about number 2, confidence. We hear it all the time, confidence is attractive, but what does that actually mean? It's not about walking into a room and demanding attention. True confidence is quiet. It's steady. It's the unshakable belief that you are enough, exactly as you are. This kind of self-assurance is magnetic because it's rare. In a world where so many men seek approval or chase validation, the man who doesn't need it, who is grounded in himself, feels like a breath of fresh air. Think about it. Women deal with their own insecurities every day. They worry about how they look, how they're perceived, and whether they measure up. So when they meet a man who's calm, centered, and not looking for her to boost his ego, it's a powerful shift. It feels safe. It feels real. That's why truly confident men stand out in a crowd full of doubt. Too many guys build their confidence on shaky foundations, status, looks, money. But what happens when life shakes those things loose? Real confidence comes from within. It's knowing your value, even when life doesn't go your way. When you have that inner certainty, you become untouchable. You're not fazed by rejection. You're not thrown off by setbacks. And you definitely don't need a woman's approval to feel whole. Start building this kind of confidence by setting goals, small ones, at first, and keeping your promises to yourself. Each win stacks up and reinforces that you can trust yourself. And remember, confidence doesn't mean perfection. It means being at peace with your imperfections. Own your flaws. Own your weirdness. Be real, and watch how women are drawn to that unapologetic, genuine self-assurance. Now on to number 3, ambition. Ambition is one of the most compelling traits a man can possess. In a world where settling for good enough is common, the ambitious man shines like a spark in the dark. He's constantly pushing forward, not to impress others, but because he knows he's meant for more. Women are naturally drawn to men with drive and direction. Why? Because it signals purpose. It tells her you're going somewhere, and that's exciting. Here's the truth. Ambition doesn't mean you're working 80-hour weeks or building the next tech empire. It simply means you have a vision, a goal, and you refuse to coast through life on autopilot. Women want to feel like they're part of something bigger. Being around a man with ambition gives them that sense of forward motion, of progress. It shows you're not just drifting, you're building. But here's where most guys fall flat. They talk a big game about being ambitious, but they don't back it up. Saying it isn't enough. You have to live it. Whether it's through your career, your fitness, your creative pursuits, demonstrate that you're always moving forward. Because ambition isn't about being perfect. It's about chasing growth, day by day. So, we've just explored how ambition sets you apart, how striving for growth makes you magnetic. But ambition alone isn't enough. It's how you express that ambition in your daily life that truly leaves an impression. It's about showing that you're constantly evolving, always becoming a better, sharper version of yourself. Start by setting both short-term and long-term goals. These don't need to be massive or flashy. What matters is that they push you out of your comfort zone and towards something greater. Whether it's aiming for that promotion, picking up a new language, or getting in shape, every step forward sends a message: you're not standing still. When a woman sees that fire in you, that drive to improve, she won't just notice it, she'll want to be part of that journey. It signals that your story is still being written, and that she might be lucky enough to play a role in it. Now let's talk about number 4, the bad boy. Why does a little mystery keep her coming back for more? Let's get something straight first. When we say bad boy, we're not talking about a disrespectful jerk who doesn't care about anyone. We're not romanticizing arrogance, recklessness, or emotional immaturity. The real magnetism behind the so-called bad boy? It's not in his volume. It's in his restraint. He's emotionally unpredictable, a little distant, hard to read. That quiet edge of mystery, it draws people in. Even if they don't want to admit it, most women find that emotional tension irresistible. Why? Because most men are easy to figure out. They overshare. They text constantly. They try too hard. While women say they want openness, and yes, they do, what keeps their attention is something else. Curiosity. The thrill of not knowing everything right away. That subtle, lingering question, what's he thinking? That's the spark of mystery. And mystery creates momentum. It's not about playing games. It's about presence. When a man doesn't feel the need to constantly validate her, when he keeps a calm emotional distance instead of chasing approval, he creates something rare. Space. And in that space, she leans forward. She listens closer. She starts to wonder why you're not reacting like every other guy. Why you're not instantly pouring out your emotions. And that wonder? That's attraction, growing in silence. Now, here's where most guys mess it up. They try to fake it. They go cold, act distant, pretend to be mysterious. But women can smell pretense a mile away. This isn't about pretending to be something you're not. It's about actually living a life so full of purpose that you don't have time or the need to constantly explain yourself. You're focused on your own path. You're not here to manage someone else's emotional state. Think about it. When you make yourself an open book too soon, there's nothing left to discover. When you respond instantly every time, when you're too available, too emotionally transparent, the spark dies quietly. Suddenly, she's scrolling through your messages, and something just fades. And that brings us to Stoicism. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Apply that to your emotional presence. Speak less. Reveal slowly. Let your silence carry weight. Don't give everything away in the first 5 conversations. Let her earn access. The men who hold a woman's attention over time are the ones who know how to share their world bit by bit, not all at once. They hold back not out of fear, but out of self-respect. because they know their value doesn't need constant broadcasting. Here's the deeper truth. Mystery isn't about strategy, it's about sovereignty. Not every thought needs to be voiced. Not every emotion needs to be explained. Not every moment demands a reaction. Sometimes, the most attractive thing you can do is simply pause. Let her wonder. Let her lean in. Because when there's something left to figure out, she stays present. She stays curious. And she stays interested. Previously, we uncovered the quiet power of mystery, how holding just enough back can create tension, curiosity, and emotional pull. But like anything powerful, it's all about balance. And that's where we continue. When a woman has to earn your emotional presence, even just a little, she values it more. She starts to lean in, watching more closely, listening more deeply, feeling more invested. And that emotional effort? That's where real connection begins. But here's the catch. Too much mystery, and you risk becoming cold, distant, or unreadable. Not enough, and you're just another open book on the shelf. The sweet spot? It's being felt without having to explain yourself. Being seen without being fully understood. Known, but not completely figured out. That edge, that slight emotional unavailability, is what makes you unforgettable. And maybe, just maybe, if you've ever felt like you're doing all the right things but still getting overlooked, the issue isn't your effort. It's your exposure. You might have given too much, too fast. You erased all the tension, and with it, the intrigue. The solution isn't to chase harder. It's to pull more of yourself back. Not out of spite, but with intention. Let curiosity do the heavy lifting. If that message lands, and you're finally done over-explaining your worth, drop this in the comments. I stay unreadable. Because sometimes, the moment you stop giving everything away, is the exact moment she starts paying real attention. Let's move forward. Number 5, ignored attention, how scarcity increases your value. Let's debunk a common myth. Many men believe that if they just pour more time, more affection, more presence into a woman, she'll finally recognize their worth. They think always being available, responding instantly, and never missing a beat will win her over. But here's the truth most men don't want to hear. What's always available becomes invisible. This isn't manipulation. It's human psychology. We don't chase what we can have anytime. We chase what feels rare, earned, what makes us lean forward rather than lean back. This is where the concept of ignored attention comes in. When a man starts pulling back, not as a tactic, but because his energy is focused elsewhere, something shifts. She notices the gap, the quiet, the absence. That's scarcity. And scarcity breeds value. Let's be clear, this doesn't mean ghosting or ignoring her for days to teach a lesson. That's not strength, that's insecurity in disguise. What we're talking about is refocusing your attention on your mission. Letting your time become something earned, not assumed. Because when your attention is always available, it loses its weight. But when you choose where and when to give it, it becomes powerful. Be the man who doesn't drop everything at the first vibration of a message. Be the man who doesn't rearrange his priorities just to respond. Be the man whose presence is intentional, not automatic. Because attention is emotional currency. And the more freely you hand it out, the less valuable it becomes. But when you hold it calmly and deliberately, your energy shifts. Your responses carry more meaning. Your time feels purposeful. And your presence becomes something she has to earn back, not something she assumes is hers. That's the shift. You stop being the guy hoping to be seen. You become the man whose absence gets noticed. And what happens when she feels that space? She starts to lean in. Not always loudly, but quietly. A check-in. A question. A subtle reach. She starts testing the waters, wondering where she stands. Not because she's playing games, but because your once constant attention has become conditional. And now, she wants to know why. In the last section, we explored how holding back your attention, calmly, confidently, can increase your value. Now, let's talk about where that inner control really comes from. This is where Stoicism sharpens the edge. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That truth hits harder than it seems. Because the real strength isn't about ignoring her to get control. It's about realizing that you don't need constant interaction to feel steady. You don't have to pour out all your time and energy to prove your worth. You are already worthy, whether or not she sees it. The man who understands this, he becomes rare. He values his own peace more than he craves attention. He's not chasing, he's choosing. He's centered, grounded, focused. And in a world full of men who give too much, too fast, he stands out and stays memorable. Now, let's be real. The urge to respond right away, to check in, to keep the connection alive, that comes from a good place. You care. You're invested. That's not wrong. But here's where it gets dangerous. When you care too much without boundaries, you unknowingly teach her that your attention is hers to control. And once that happens, no matter how much she likes you, your value starts to slip. So, flip the dynamic. Create space. Let her feel the quiet. Let her wonder. Let your silence be intentional, not reactive, not dramatic, just calm, solid strength. And if she walks away because she no longer has unlimited access to you, good. That means she wasn't truly drawn to you, she was hooked on your availability. On the constant attention. On the convenience. But the woman who's looking for something real, she'll feel that shift. She'll sense the pause. And she'll come back with more clarity, more effort, and more respect. So if you've been overgiving, overtexting, or overchasing, let this be the wake-up call. Your attention is valuable. Don't hand it out like it's free. If that truth settled deep in your gut, drop this in the comments as your personal reminder. I move in silence. Because real presence doesn't beg. It doesn't chase. It chooses where to be. And when it leaves a mark. Let's keep going. Number 6, pre-selection, the power of being desired by other women. Here's a fact many men overlook. You can be consistent. You can speak all the right words. You can be deeply purpose-driven. But if a woman senses that no other women find you desirable, something changes. It's not that she suddenly disrespects you. It's that part of her brain, wired for social awareness, starts quietly asking, why aren't other women interested in him? That subtle question can shift her perception of you. Not always on a conscious level, but it happens. And that's where preselection comes in. It's the psychological truth that we are more attracted to people who others already find valuable. In simple terms, being wanted makes you more wanted. That's why a man walking into a room surrounded by warm, confident female energy tends to draw more eyes than the guy standing alone. It's not about being flashy. It's not about being a player. It's about perceived value. And perception changes the game. Because women aren't just looking for a good man. They're looking for a man who's already recognized as good by others. That recognition doesn't have to be romantic. It could be a woman laughing at your jokes, or giving you a warm, genuine hug when she sees you, or simply showing respect in the way she talks to you. These subtle cues, they tell her something without you having to say a word. You've been chosen before, and you could be chosen again. In the last section, we saw how being desired by others, without saying a word, can shift how she sees you. That quiet confidence, that social proof, creates a subtle but powerful pull. Now let's go deeper. That's exactly what makes you a risk. And believe it or not, that perceived risk is what triggers a deeper kind of interest. But here's where most men stumble. They think preselection is something they need to talk about, bragging about past relationships, mentioning how so many women want them, or dropping hints to seem more desirable. Let's set the record straight. That's not preselection. That's desperation wearing cologne. Real preselection? It doesn't come from your mouth. It's something she senses. It's in how you carry yourself. How women respond to you naturally, without you needing to chase them. It's the quiet ease in your presence when you're around the opposite sex, not because you're trying to impress, but because you've already been someone people admire. And that energy? It lingers. It tells a story louder than any words ever could. Here's where Stoicism refines the edge. You don't chase preselection. You don't manipulate it. You become the kind of man who earns it by being disciplined, focused, and grounded. You stay committed to your purpose. You don't look around for validation. You're too locked in on your own mission. And when that happens, you naturally draw the attention of women who respect presence over performance. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it." And the same applies here. Don't explain why women like you. Don't try to convince her you're valuable. Be valuable. Be so centered in your life that you don't even notice who's watching. Because they will watch. And when they do, your presence becomes proof in itself. Think about this. If she sees that you can hold a woman's attention without chasing, if she senses that you've been admired but remain selective, if she knows you've had options but you don't rush to choose, that creates tension. That creates attraction. It tells her you're not scrambling to be picked. You're deciding who actually fits your life. And that's rare. Most guys are in a hurry to lock her down, to show they're not like the others. But the man who already knows his worth, he's not rushing anything. He watches. He waits. He lets her reveal herself before investing his energy. And that slow, intentional approach speaks to something primal. If other women want him, maybe I should act before someone else does. That's pre-selection in motion. Not loud, not showy, but impossible to ignore. So if you're out here thinking the only way to win her over is to chase harder, text faster, or explain why you're the best option, pause. Ask yourself, would another high-value woman want to be around me right now? If the answer's no, then maybe it's not about getting her attention. Maybe it's about becoming the kind of man who naturally attracts it without even trying. Because that is your real advantage. That's the leverage of a man who's already been chosen and still chooses carefully. And if that truth hits you deep, leave this in the comments to lock it in. I attract naturally. Because when you stop trying to be picked and start moving like someone who already holds value, the entire energy shifts. Let's keep moving. Number 7, masculinity. Why women want emotionally strong men. Let's clear something up right away. Masculinity is not about aggression. It's not about being loud, controlling, or emotionally closed off. It's not about trying to dominate every room or intimidate everyone around you. That's just an insecure performance. Real masculinity, the kind women are truly drawn to, is quiet. It's steady. It's the calm in the storm. And more than anything else, it's built on emotional strength. So, what does that really mean? Emotional strength doesn't mean pretending you don't feel anything. It's not about acting cold or detached. It's about knowing exactly what affects you and not letting it control you. We just unpacked the quiet strength of real masculinity, the kind that isn't loud or controlling, but emotionally steady and deeply grounded. Now let's go one level deeper into what that emotional strength truly looks like in action. It's about owning your emotions without being owned by them. It's about standing firm when life gets tough, not because you're trying to prove something, but because you're rooted in who you are. That's the kind of man women instinctively feel safe around, not just physically, but emotionally. He doesn't get rattled by every challenge. He doesn't crumble the moment things feel uncertain or someone pulls away. He doesn't react impulsively. He doesn't spiral when he's triggered. He's grounded, not flawless, but centered. This is masculinity at its highest level. Emotional sovereignty. See, the emotionally strong man doesn't run from his feelings, he acknowledges them. But he doesn't broadcast every passing emotion like a public announcement. He doesn't let every wave knock him over. Instead, he observes. He processes. He reflects, and then he responds with clarity and control. He never lets a temporary emotion dictate a permanent action. And in today's world, that kind of man, he's rare. Because we live in a culture where rage is rewarded, where loudness is mistaken for strength, and where emotional volatility is often sold as realness. But the truth is, deep down, both men and women crave the opposite. We crave steadiness. We crave someone who can walk through emotional fire and not lose their center. And that's exactly why emotionally strong men are so attractive. They don't escalate chaos. They calm it. They bring balance into a world spinning too fast. Not because they dominate the room with noise, but because their presence doesn't flinch. Women pick up on that, often without even realizing it. It's not about your looks. It's not about your bank account. It's about how you carry yourself when things fall apart. How you speak when you're hurting. How you hold your ground when tested. How you respond when things don't go your way. That's what draws her closer. That's what builds trust. Not charm. Not status. But stability. Now let's anchor this in Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That's the essence of masculine energy, not controlling the world, but commanding yourself. The ability to stay steady, especially when emotions rise. That's the separator. That's what women are drawn to. But what happens when you don't have that strength? You get needy. You overexpress. You vent when what you really need is stillness. You pressure her for answers she's not ready to give. You scramble to fix emotions with action because you've never learned how to just sit with what you feel. And over time, that energy creates pressure. It makes her feel like she's responsible for your emotional balance. And if there's one thing that kills attraction faster than anything else, it's that. The emotionally weak man thinks intensity will win her over. The emotionally strong man knows that restraint is more powerful. It's in the pause before you speak. It's in the calm you keep when she pulls away. It's in the quiet confidence that tells her, "I feel deeply, but I don't fall apart." Previously, we talked about the power of emotional restraint, how calm, grounded masculinity draws others in without force. Now let's look at what that kind of emotional strength actually looks like when put into motion, especially in the hardest moments. It's in how you own your role during conflict, without drowning in guilt. That kind of presence is rare. It's deeply masculine. And yes, it's incredibly attractive. Because let's be honest, women aren't looking for a man who never feels. They're looking for a man who doesn't run from his feelings. They want to know that you have a rich emotional world, but that you can guide yourself through it. That you don't shut down under pressure. That you're a rock, but not a wall. So, if you've ever been told that showing emotion makes you weak, or that masculinity means being cold and detached, forget that. Let it go. The truth is this. Real strength is about integration. It's about feeling deeply, holding steady, and acting with intention, even when emotions surge. And if you've ever found yourself in situations where your emotions took the wheel, where your tone shifted, your decisions felt reactive, or you lost your grounding, there's no shame in that. It's not a failure. It's feedback. It's a signal. A chance to evolve. To level up. Because emotional strength isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. Brick by brick. Boundary by boundary. Through reflection, self-awareness, and repeated action. And when you start walking in that strength, when you stop reacting and start leading with awareness, the women around you feel it. Your energy shifts. Your presence deepens. And the space you hold becomes more magnetic than anything you could say. So if this is the moment you stop chasing chaos and start choosing presence, type this in the comments to claim it. I lead myself. Because once you master your emotions, you don't just become more attractive, you become untouchable. Let's go further. Number 8. Charismatic leadership, how to lead and make her follow. Let's clear something up right away. Leadership in relationships is not about control. It's not barking orders. It's not being the alpha. It's not micromanaging her every move. That's not leadership. That's fear. That's insecurity wearing a tough mask. Real leadership, the kind that earns her trust and loyalty over time, is subtle, grounded, and most of all, charismatic. And here's the part most men overlook. Leadership isn't something you demand. It's something you embody. You don't lead by pointing and shouting directions. You lead by walking a path that's so clear, so driven by purpose, so alive with vision, that she wants to follow. Charisma isn't about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about your energy, your presence. It's not always about having the perfect answer. It's about knowing how to hold uncertainty without falling apart. When a man leads with calm, clarity, and conviction, something shifts. People around him feel it, especially women. She doesn't just feel safe physically. She feels safe emotionally. Because she doesn't just trust his words. She trusts his direction. A charismatic leader doesn't dominate. He influences. He listens before speaking. He takes responsibility when things go wrong. He sets the tone in a room, not with volume, but with quiet certainty. He doesn't beg for attention. He doesn't overshare or overjustify. He knows what matters to him. And he moves like it. That's what draws her in. Not because she's weak, but because he's strong enough to carry vision, not just for himself, but for the two of them. And make no mistake, women don't follow men just because they're ambitious or charming. They follow men who lead with integrity, who remain composed when things get tough, who can navigate chaos without losing their center. That's the kind of leadership that inspires. Not with control, but with character. Let's anchor this in Stoic truth, where real leadership begins, not with the desire to be followed, but with the discipline to lead yourself. In the last section, we talked about what real leadership looks like, how it comes not from control or dominance, but from presence, integrity, and calm conviction. Now let's turn that into action. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." That's it. Not by talking. Not by performing. Not by pretending to have it all figured out. But by living. By showing up with discipline, intention, and such grounded presence that she doesn't need to be convinced, you simply become undeniable. So what does that look like in real life? You're the one who chooses the plan, not because you want to control everything, but because you care enough to think ahead. You handle conflict without snapping. You know when to speak and when to pause. And when chaos shows up, you don't get louder, you get calmer. And maybe the most powerful part, You know when to walk away from the chaos altogether. Because here's the truth. A true leader doesn't force anyone to follow. He doesn't beg for connection from someone who refuses to meet him halfway. Charismatic leadership isn't about pulling someone behind you. It's about setting a clear, powerful standard, one that only the right woman will be inspired to rise and match. And yes, she might test you. She might push back. Why? Because she needs to feel that your leadership isn't performative, it's real. That it holds up under pressure. That it doesn't collapse when challenged. And that's exactly where many men fall apart. They take her resistance personally instead of recognizing what it really means. She's feeling your presence. She's wondering, can I trust where this man is going? And your answer? It's never in your words. It's in your posture, your reactions, your consistency under fire. Because the truth is, women do crave direction. But not from just anyone. They follow men whose lives are structured, whose values don't shift with the wind, whose direction is clear, even when no one's watching. That kind of energy? It's rare. It's magnetic. And it's not something you chase. It's something you become. So if you've been asking yourself how to lead in a way that naturally draws her in, stop looking out there. Start building inward. Get clear on your values. Get firm in your tone. Get honest about where you're going. And then move with purpose. You don't need to explain your vision to be respected. You just need to live it. If that truth resonated with you, if you're done apologizing for being a man who knows where he's going, type this in the comments. I lead forward. Because when leadership is rooted in presence, not pressure, it doesn't just draw her in, it elevates everything around you. Let's move on. Number 9, emotional intelligence, the secret to building a deep connection. Let's be real. Most people can hold a conversation. They can talk. They can share facts. They can fill silence with words. But very few know how to create true connection. Because connection isn't just about talking. It's about emotional presence. It's about sensing unspoken tension. It's about reading the room without needing everything spelled out. It's about navigating emotional moments, not with force, but with grace. And that's why emotional intelligence is such a game changer. It's not just a nice to have. It's not about being soft or overly sensitive. Emotional intelligence is strength. It's poise. It's command, not over others, but over yourself. And the men who have it, they don't need to say much to shift a room. Their presence adjusts the energy. Things slow down around them. And women? They notice it immediately. Because let's be honest, attraction might catch her eye. But emotional intelligence earns her respect. It makes her feel safe. It makes her feel seen. It makes her feel understood. And in today's world, that feeling is rare. Most men react emotionally, but tell themselves they're being logical. In the previous section, we uncovered how emotional intelligence is more than just sensitivity. It's strength, presence, and the power to create real, lasting connection. But what does that actually look like in real life? Most people speak from ego, and then call it honesty. But when you meet a man who can feel everything, yet isn't ruled by anything, it's powerful. It's magnetic. Because that level of emotional command, it's rare. So, what does emotional intelligence in action actually look like? It's pausing before reacting, even when every part of you wants to snap back. It's choosing your tone carefully instead of letting frustration speak for you. It's being able to say, "I hear you," even when you don't agree. It's reading between the lines, not just hearing her words, but noticing her silences, her shifts, her pauses. It's holding emotional tension without immediately trying to fix it, just being present with it. And here's the wild part. Most women have never experienced that. They've dated guys who shut down when things get real, who get defensive the moment they're questioned, who panic the second vulnerability shows up. So when a woman meets a man who can sit with discomfort, who doesn't try to escape the moment, he stands out. She doesn't have to ask herself, "Can I be real with him?" She just knows. That's the real power. But here's a common mistake a lot of men make. They confuse emotional intelligence with passivity. They think it means absorbing everything, always giving in, holding space until they lose themselves. Let's be clear, that's not emotional intelligence. That's emotional submission. A man with real EQ doesn't vanish. He validates without enabling. He listens with presence, but also knows when to set boundaries. He stays calm, but never small. That balance? That's what creates connection. Because in the end, deep connection isn't built through emotional outbursts or dramatic gestures. It's built through consistency. She doesn't fall for the man who burns hot and fast. She falls for the man who meets her as she is. Who doesn't flinch when things get messy. Who understands his own emotional world and doesn't rely on her to manage it for him. And this isn't just about romance. Emotional intelligence elevates everything. Your relationships, your career, your leadership. It becomes the foundation of relational gravity, the ability to influence without pressure, to connect without control, and to lead without ego. Now let's ground this in Stoic truth. Seneca once said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." And that's what emotional adversity is. Conflict, tension, vulnerability. Moments where most men shut down. They blame. They deflect. They run. But the emotionally intelligent man? He stays. He listens. He feels. He grows. And when a woman sees that, she's not just impressed, she's disarmed. She no longer needs to protect herself in your presence. She doesn't have to perform. She can breathe. And when a woman feels safe enough to relax around you, it opens the door to something far beyond attraction. It builds trust, the kind of trust that lasts. So if you're tired of surface-level conversations, tired of being told you're nice, but never the one who leaves a lasting mark, this is where everything shifts. Build your emotional intelligence. Not to win her, but to master yourself. And if this hit you deep, if you're ready to stop reacting and start leading with calm presence, lock it in with a comment. I stay aware. Because connection isn't built through force. It's built through understanding. And the man who understands himself, he's the one she never forgets. Let's finish strong. In the previous section, we uncovered the power of emotional intelligence, how it builds trust, deepens connection, and separates you from the crowd. Now, let's end this series with what might just be the most quietly powerful trait of all. Number 10. Passionate interests. Why purpose and passion make you magnetic. It's not looks. It's not money. It's not charm. It's passion. Not the kind you fake. Not the kind you turn on to impress someone. But real, personal, deeply rooted passion, a fire for something that has absolutely nothing to do with her. Something that fuels you regardless of whether anyone's watching. That's what makes you magnetic. Want to know why? Because most people today, men and women alike, are just drifting. They wake up, check their phone, commute, scroll, eat, sleep, repeat. Days blur into each other like copies of the same page. No clear direction. No meaningful purpose. So when a woman meets a man who's lit up by something, anything, she feels it immediately. She sees a man who isn't waiting for life to happen to him. He's building something, creating, moving. That energy, it's rare. It's electric. It's unforgettable. You don't need to be rich. You don't need to be famous. But when you speak about the thing that moves you, and your voice deepens, your posture shifts, your eyes light up. She feels that. She sees a man who's alive. And that's where the real magic begins. Because when your passion has nothing to do with impressing her, it becomes irresistible. You're not seeking her approval. You're showing her that you already have something greater, a purpose that gives your life structure, direction, and meaning. Something that keeps you anchored when everything else gets messy. It could be anything. Music, building a business, martial arts, teaching, writing, travel, leading your community. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that it's yours, that it's real, that you'd still be doing it even if nobody clapped. That kind of passion can't be faked. And it sure as hell can't be ignored. And here's the twist, purpose makes everything else easier. You stop chasing. You stop overthinking. You stop trying to measure your value through how much attention you're getting. Because you're already full. You've already found something that makes your time and your life feel valuable. And when a woman sees that, when she senses that you're not desperate for her to fill your identity or fix your boredom, she leans in. Not to complete you, but because she sees you already complete. That's what turns heads. Not effort. Not pickup lines. Presence built on purpose. And purpose does something else too. It makes you emotionally grounded. Because when setbacks come, and they will, they don't break you. They don't define you. You've got something to come back to. A mission. A focus. A rhythm that centers you. When the world feels chaotic, or your relationships feel uncertain, you don't spiral. You recenter. That's Stoicism in action. Seneca said, "If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable." You need direction. You need a port, a vision that pulls you forward. Because without that, you drift. And when you drift, people around you feel it. You start grasping for identity in places you should never surrender it. In attention, in approval, in short-term validation. And none of those things can fill the space where purpose is supposed to live. In the last part, we saw how purpose isn't just attractive, it's stabilizing. It grounds you, sharpens you, and makes everything else in your life more magnetic. Now let's take that one step further. When you live with passion, that fire becomes your foundation. It's not something you give away. It's not something you shrink to fit into someone else's life. It's something you share on your own terms. And here's the truth. The right woman won't try to tame it. She won't compete with it. She'll admire it. She'll respect it. And maybe she'll even be inspired to grow from it. So if you've been waiting on someone else to bring meaning into your life, or hoping that a relationship will finally make you feel alive again, flip that script. Find your thing. Build your lane. Craft your days so full of purpose and intention that anyone who enters your world is stepping into something that's already vibrant, already meaningful. Because at the end of the day, the most attractive thing about a man isn't his appearance, his lifestyle, or even his status. It's how he lives. And when you live with clarity, with direction, with something that lights you up, you don't have to chase anyone. You draw people in without even trying. If that hits you deep, and you're ready to stop drifting through your days and start designing a life that actually matters, type this in the comments. I move with purpose. Because when your passion drives you, you don't just attract attention. You earn respect. And that's what keeps the right ones close. And that's it. 10 powerful traits. 10 psychological switches that women naturally respond to, whether they admit it or not. But let's be crystal clear. This isn't about tricks. It's not about games. It's not about trying to be someone you're not. It's about becoming a man who's so rooted in who he is, so aligned with what he values, so intentional in how he moves, that he doesn't need to chase attention anymore, he commands it. And here's the realest truth of all. None of this works if you're faking it. Confidence, ambition, emotional strength, purpose, they only matter if they're real, built, lived, earned. So don't just nod your head and agree with this video. Pick one thing, apply it, live it, and let your actions speak louder than anything you could say. Because the man you're becoming, that's the message the world will remember.
Thanks for spending time here. If this resonated with you, give it a like, send it to a friend, and make sure you're subscribed. Your support means everything.